Did you know that the legendary discovery of the Titanic was actually just a massive cover story? Yeah, it was literally a front for a top-secret nuclear submarine mission. I mean, it sounds straight out of a Hollywood thriller, right? But sometimes reality really is far stranger than fiction. Welcome to today's Explainer. If you think you have a pretty good handle on how the world works, well, prepare to have your perspective totally shifted. We've been sifting through an absolute mountain of data. Seriously, just a massive, sprawling data dump of the world's most unbelievable realities to bring you this highly curated explainer. I've got to tell you, I was genuinely blown away by some of these findings. So my goal today is to distill all this incredible info down to its most fascinating core. We're giving you the pure, astonishing facts, zero fluff.
Okay, let's dive into this. To make all of this super easy to digest, we've broken it down into four main areas. First, mysteries of the human body. Second, astounding truths of history. Third, technology and unique inventions. And finally, number 4, amazing world and nature. Let's jump right in. Section 1, mysteries of the human body. Okay, think about this number for a second. 1,524 kilometers. What in the world could that possibly measure? Well, consider the hair on your head. You've got over 100,000 hair follicles up there, and a single strand grows roughly 6 inches a year, right? So if you live to be 100 years old and you took the total lifelong growth of every single hair on your head and lined it all up end to end, your body produces enough keratin to span over 1,500 kilometers. It's just a staggering amount of biological production happening right on top of your head, completely on autopilot. And this brilliantly illustrates just how insanely powerful our minds are. We're always marveling at modern computing, but compare it to your own biology for a minute. The Blue Gene supercomputer, which is one of the most powerful machines humanity has ever built, clocks in at 7.6 trillion operations per second. But your brain? Right now, as you're sitting here processing my words, your brain is performing roughly 38,000 trillion operations per second. The world's top supercomputer reaches only a tiny fractional percentage of what your brain can do. You are quite literally walking around with the ultimate supercomputer inside your skull. But our bodies are as mysterious as they are powerful, especially when we look at the total enigma of organ transplants. Medical science still doesn't fully understand the depths of how biological memory actually works. I mean, transplant success rates are still highly unpredictable. But even wilder than that, physical traits can actually transfer from the donor to the recipient. There's this documented case of a woman who received a lung transplant. Before the surgery, she had absolutely zero food allergies, none. But shortly after getting the new lung, she ate a peanut butter sandwich and immediately went into anaphylactic shock. Turns out, the donor of that lung had a severe peanut allergy. Somehow, the biological memory of that exact allergy transferred along with the organ. It just shows how deeply interconnected our cellular memory really is. Crazy, right? Moving on to Section 2, Astounding Truths of History. So remember that hook at the very beginning of the explainer? Let's look at the actual timeline of what went down. The Titanic famously sank in 1912. Fast forward to 1985, and Robert Ballard mounts this massive expedition to find the wreckage. The whole world watched in awe. But here is the secret. Ballard wasn't actually looking for the Titanic at all. He was on a highly classified U.S. government mission to find 2 sunken nuclear submarines without tipping off rival nations. Telling the press they were hunting for the Titanic was literally the perfect PR cover story. Well, Ballard actually found the subs way faster than expected. So, with some free time left over at the end of the mission, he asked his team if they wanted to playfully search for the Titanic, just to see if they could actually find it. And miraculously, they did. The truth about this whole nuclear cover-up wasn't declassified and revealed to the public until years later. Now, consider the sheer absurdity of this next number: 14,000 cats. Back in the 1960s, the island of Borneo was facing a massive, catastrophic rat epidemic. It was destroying their crops, completely threatening the population's food supply. So what was the solution? Operation Cat Drop. I'm not kidding. The military literally loaded up airplanes with 14,000 cats and airdropped them in tiny parachutes all over the island to hunt the rats. It was extreme, almost comical, but a highly effective biological intervention that entirely saved the island. History is also just full of massive what-ifs and regrets. I mean, we all immediately associate the Eiffel Tower with Paris, France, right? But it was actually originally pitched to the city of Barcelona, Spain, and Barcelona completely rejected the design. They thought it was entirely too expensive and that it looked like this giant, ugly radio tower that was just going to ruin their beautiful skyline. So the design went over to Paris instead, where they accepted it, and it obviously became one of the most timeless, profitable global icons in all of human history. Just think about that. One simple rejection radically altered the entire tourism landscape of Europe forever.
All right, Section 3, Technology and Unique Inventions. Check out this extreme vehicle disparity between India and the USA. It perfectly captures just how totally different transportation cultures can be across the globe. In India, there is a staggering 230 million two-wheelers, like bikes and scooters, compared to just 40 million cars. But then you look at the USA, and it's almost the exact inverse. They have an absolutely massive 290 million cars, yet an incredibly low 8.6 million two-wheelers. The contrast in how these two massive populations choose to get from point A to point B is just astonishing.
But here's the thing. Brilliant technology isn't just about massive scale or millions of vehicles. It's often hidden right there in the everyday items we barely even notice. Let's consider the mechanics of a simple padlock. You know the drill. You insert the key, the inner patterns align perfectly, the internal spring compresses, and boom, the lock opens. But the true genius is actually step 4. Have you ever noticed that tiny hidden hole at the very bottom of a padlock? That is a specifically engineered drainage hole. If that lock is left outside in heavy rain, the water escapes right through that tiny opening. Without it, the water would pool inside, the internal springs would rust completely shut, and the lock would become permanently jammed. It is this silent, brilliant piece of engineering sitting right in the palm of your hand.
And speaking of brilliant engineering, let's zoom in on the absolute cutting edge. This completely shocked me. The computer chips that power our entire modern world are microscopic, but the machine required to actually build them, it's an absolute leviathan. The ASML chip-making machine weighs as much as 2 whole commercial airplanes. The sheer density and complexity of this thing completely justifies its mind-blowing price tag, which is roughly 3,100 crores. That's 31 billion rupees. It's so fascinating to me that the smallest, most invisible technology we rely on every single day requires literally the most massive, expensive machinery ever built just to create it.
And finally, Section 4, Amazing World and Nature. When we talk about the world's most linguistically diverse nations, Papua New Guinea actually takes the top spot, with 840 distinct local languages. But right behind it is India, with 780. And what is so amazing about India's linguistic landscape is that while about 43% of the population speaks Hindi natively, the country still manages to hold together this astonishing web of nearly 800 unique dialects and local languages. The immense cultural density and the historical preservation required to maintain that many distinct languages within modern borders is truly, truly incredible.
Now, moving from culture to the extreme lengths humans will go to for a world record. Talk about the ultimate fear of missing out. The legendary rock band Metallica wanted to be able to truthfully claim that they had played a live concert on every single continent on Earth. So what do? In 2013, they traveled all the way to the frozen, completely isolated continent of Antarctica. They put on a full concert, hilariously dubbed Freeze 'em All, and performed to a crowd of exactly 120 isolated research scientists. They literally went to the ends of the Earth just to complete the set. But humanity's connection to the natural world goes far, far deeper than PR stunts. Take the beautifully haunting story of Lawrence Anthony. He was a famous conservationist who dedicated his entire life to protecting wild elephants in South Africa. Well, the day he suffered a fatal heart attack and passed away at his home, something totally inexplicable happened. A herd of wild elephants, the exact same elephants he had saved, walked over 2 kilometers out of the deep bush just to stand right outside his house. They stood there in a quiet vigil, actually mourning his loss. How did they even know he had died? There is this unexplained, almost telepathic emotional resonance that animals share with the humans who protect them, a bond that science simply cannot map out. All right, let's move to our final point and see how everything we've talked about builds into an absolutely mind-bending realization. Let's look at the universe as a whole. Scientists estimate there are roughly 2 trillion known galaxies out there. That is a 2 followed by 12 zeros. It is a massive, completely incomprehensible number. But now, look back at yourself. The number of individual atoms that make up your physical body right this very second, it's 7 billion billion billion. That is a 7 followed by 27 zeros. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If your own body contains significantly more atoms than there are known galaxies in the entire night sky, are you just a tiny, insignificant part of the universe? Or is an entire infinitely complex universe hidden right inside of you? The facts we've explored today just go to show that reality is far, far more astounding than we ever give it credit for.
Keep questioning what you know, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.